Let me respectfully stand by the protocol established before me, by those who have spoken before me. Listening to my dear friend Manfred, it took me back to that part of the history he touched on. And again, it just provoked you to some extent wanted to touch on some of the things that he spoke about. One of the lines that really cut across all those things was, in those early days, what really motivated some of us as young people at that time, of course, not the common vision. The common vision. Everything he touched on, the setting up of the new university, the creating institutions, including faculties. And as one of those who were involved in that important exercise, what really facilitated our work was the common vision, driving towards creating a society that is distinctly different from what we inherited at the time of our independence. Erases emotions because it was not easy. When you confront your countrymen and women and want to do what you think is right, and there's a bit of a resistance. But of course, also learning from that experience and saying to yourself, there is always the fear of the unknown. Because you are driving an agenda, you are driving us in a particular way, but people are not always fully aware of what you are talking about, what you are intending to do. And that, of course, what experience do I have at that time to be able to comprehend that and appreciate and be sufficiently understanding that people are not necessarily resisting the change, but they want to know where you are taking them to. That's one. Before I get into the main issue that I want to cover, I really want to underline and underscore the fact that the sign language that we are observing, it dawned on me that this is almost it's a language that our people should be facilitated to be able to understand and follow the progress that this country is making by actually being part and parcel. We talk about being inclusive. We have to adopt this language. The motion is on the floor of the National Assembly, and we have to prioritize them to make sure that we adopt it and affirm as one of the languages that are utilized in this country for the good of the Now, Manfred touched on, and we had a wonderful human beings at that time constituting the team, and I remember setting up the law faculty, now the School of Law. It was always like we managed to make a breakthrough by being able to meet as often as possible and to communicate between the academic, the university, as we're mapping up the agenda, and the various government ministries. And when we got through to the Ministry of Justice, things started to move. And it is really a joy when I look back on that. That sort of understanding and good way of working together, I hope we can replicate some of those experiences in today's Namibia, because we need it. It is the only way to make progress. You can never impose things on people. There must be a sense of ownership. Then our dear brother, Walter, when he chose not to accept certain things at the University of Zimbabwe and chose to resign and move on, That night I called him. You forget that we shared an apartment in London. When I discovered that, I called. He was not available, but I spoke to the wife. I said, my dear sister, where is my brother? He's not available. You could leave a message with me, and I did that. Cut the long story short, that's how I got him over here. To add value to what we're setting up to do. And really, and that team, things have moved on at the University of Namibia. I don't need to lecture you on this, but the goodwill, the spirit of partnership and working together, the common vision that can pick up the phone and call someone in the Ministry of Justice and so forth. That is what has made my task as the incoming Vice Chancellor slightly easier. And it is something that I really want to reflect in my life story one of these days and talk about it. The Constitution, the Constitution. A lot of major issues that came up at the time when we drafted the Constitution. Important milestones. I'm not going to go into it, but it's important that we highlight some of those things because the nation, and particularly our young people today in Namibia, must be exposed to some of those experiences. And I normally recount one or two when, in a very dramatic way, some members said, we've got to do away with the capital punishment. And someone said, where do we derive that mandate? And we looked at each other. I remember how they said, wow, yes, indeed. So we cannot proceed. Yes, indeed. What we do, the Constitution must be written, must be approved on time for the new nation to be born. And someone said, but we claim we are 90+% Christian country. How did thought we should consult church leaders. And indeed, within a day, all the leaders of various denominations were invited to the building up there. They said, we are stuck. Can we help? This is the issue. And to my surprise, there were no discussion, no debate. They say, yes, give us a couple of days. And they went off. After a couple of days, they came back. 2 words. Have courage. Do it. Those are some of the things that we can talk about with confidence as we took that journey of nation building. And some of these things are important in keeping our nations together with confidence, to believe in themselves. When you're stuck, don't shy away from asking your brothers and sisters to come along for a cup of tea and map out, examine the particular challenge, and in that you find the way forward. But you must do it with confidence, believing in the fact that people will always respond. Ladies and gentlemen, my task this morning is a simple one. I'm honored to officiate at this important event where we are launching the second edition of the comprehensive guide on the Namibian Constitution. Professor Manfred Hinge sketched the agenda, what he had covered, and I think he does make a case for something like this to be brought out for the benefit of our country, and particularly the younger generation, to have a comprehensive understanding of the Constitution and all that entails in that important document that they presented to us. It has been almost 33 years since members of the Constituent Assembly, as I alluded to, agreed to put their signature to this important document. And the document that basically is the Namibian, covers the Namibian history. It's a document that we normally describe as a living document, which we are all proud to call the Constitution of the Republic of Namibia and the law of the land, for which every 9th of February, year after year, we come together to mark the adoption of the Namibian Constitution. We pause for a moment to reflect on this important document, which serves as a blueprint for our very existence, which also guarantees our basic fundamental rights and freedoms. And it's a document that has been hailed by a number of countries, by a number of institutions, as being a very progressive document, reflecting the true aspirations of our people based on our particular experiences, as I refer to the fact that the discussion and the drafting of the Constitution, some people were saying many of our people were hanged during the course of the liberation struggle. And the whole essence of hanging people as a form of a punishment made us to say, well, do we retain this form of punishment? Can we do it away? But of course, the good thing when you have strong-minded people in one room who raise issues, question that, where do we derive the mandate? Now, in our case, our mandate from doing away with the capital punishment came as a result of listening to the moral authority of our country, represented by leadership from our various denominations, the churches. So, and that was important, I think, and it's something that we should always think about it. I'm not asking you to go to church every Sunday, but I'm simply saying the church as an institution continue to be important in the life of our people. As citizens, we continue to celebrate our Constitution, which can rightly be described as a brilliant manual of our democracy. To keep the spirit and aspirations of the Constitution, each and every one of us should strive and endeavor to ensure that we promote equality and an inclusive society. That should always be at the forefront. Ladies and gentlemen, the publication we are launching today will comprehensively guide many scholars and researchers, as well as the rest of us practitioners, in understanding the Namibian Constitution. It will add value, it will strengthen our understanding and our appreciation of this important document. This publication will be useful not only for academics, but everyone who wants to better comprehend the full understanding of the Namibian Constitution. And I agree with Professor Manfred Inns when he alluded to a number of other issues covered there, in terms of the history of our country, in terms of what our courts have been able to produce in terms of reports that emanate from decision taken. All that put together will serve as a guide for us to understand and appreciate what has been achieved and how this has been dealt with. I will therefore encourage others, particularly scholars and academics, to also take stock of the Namibian Constitution and produce more reading materials on the Namibian Constitution. We are the living example who benefit from the Constitution. We should also interact with our core Constitution to partake in some of the reviews that are necessary to underscore our understanding and appreciation. I remember me meeting an old friend from the law school, the University of Dar es Salaam, recently, the University of Cardiff, who have actually done a review of the Namibian Constitution, and some of the things are important. We also want to know how people looked at us, how they reflect on us, in order for us also to understand, appreciate, and make the necessary improvement in some of the things that we need to reflect on. I trust that those who set to benefit from this research work of the Namibian Constitution will appreciate it and put the newly acquired knowledge to a good use in their lives. The lives are not only as an academic, but also ordinary people also have to understand and appreciate. You also have a role to play in terms of looking at some of the things that you see daily and take them out. Share your reflections so that we can even do better than what we have done so far. Let me also thank the authors of this guide, particularly my good friend, Professor Manfred Hinz, and Ms. Anne Schmidt for their valuable time they have spent on researching and compiling this important publication. I recall the work, Manfred, that you have done on the customary law, aligning that with the Namibian Constitution. My God, honestly, and reflecting all our various communities throughout the country, it was a major contribution, which I think should be available in every library across the country. And I hope you're still going to be available for us to take stock of how far we have done thus far, what improvement we have made, and what are the particular corrective measures that should be taken up for further assessment, because these are things that actually affect ordinary people on the ground. Affect impact, particularly women, when it comes to customary laws. In some of our communities, there is a need for a serious improvement continuously so that we can do justice and our people, citizens of this country, must always look to the Constitution for recourse, for necessary appropriate action to be taken. So I'm extremely delighted to be here this morning, and I'm confident that we will add a great value to our literature on the Namibian Constitution. It is out there, and it is now available for all of us to undertake the necessary reading and make sure that it's shared evenly and is accessible. I'm extremely proud that I can pick up my phone and look at my app on the Constitution wherever I would be if I want to check up on anything related to the Constitution. This is an improvement, and it's a great and a big thank you to Konrad Adenauer for having contributed to that. So all that said, it is now my great honor to declare the Namibian Constitution a comprehensive guide, second edition, officially launched.